It has been a really long time since we have talked about Olight and what they've been up to. Now they have a big sale going on right now, and there's a bunch of new products. We're going to be going through them. We're also going to be talking about some of the best deals that you can find during this sale. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, if you were to poll my family, every side of my family, and ask which flashlight they use the most, I guarantee it's the Obulb. This one reigns supreme because it can do so many things. It's not like a conventional flashlight, and yet it can stick to basically anything because it's magnetic on the bottom, and that includes the little corners of where there is drywall, because a lot of times there's like a metal flashing underneath. So this will stick to all places all over the place, and it is very, very useful. It's also great for kids because it's not a choking hazard and it doesn't have loose parts. There's nothing exposed. So it really is quite fun, and it's fun to play with. So when they released the Sphere, I got it in the mail. I played with it. I'm like, wow, this is really complicated. There's a lot of functions. So I figured it had to be like $60. Thankfully, I was very wrong about this. This thing comes in at $20 MSRP, the exact same price that the original Obulb came at, which I really, really, really like. But unlike the original, it has all the functions of the more advanced ones. So you have like different color modes that you can cycle through. This one's like a little flashy bit. Then we have this thing, pretty cool. Then we have back to white. Now notice that this is at the lowest mode. If I hold press, I can go up. If I let go and then hold press again, I can drop it back down, turn it to red, and then flashing red, and then it goes back to what we were. Now, if I double press, I turn it off. And this is my favorite thing about it, and I'm glad I read the instructions. If I hold press from off, it automatically brings me in on white. So because it has so many modes, I find it kind of annoying to have to cycle through and find that the white. So now that I know you can do that from off, that actually really helps. In addition to this will connect to the app, and you can actually adjust it remotely, which is really, really interesting. And part of the reason I thought it was so expensive is the other bulbs they have that have this feature are quite a bit more expensive, in the $40 and $50 and sometimes even $80 range. So this is really nice. Now it's worth noting, if you get nothing else and you have been someone who's patronized Olight in the past, you're going to want to sign in to get one for free. So if you are a silver level member or above, you get it for free. If you are below that, you can get it for $10. Or if you're a new person, you can get this for only $10 or half off. That's fantastic. Definitely make sure you pick one up. There is only, as far as I can tell, two downsides. Number one, it's a lot more complicated than the original, but it's learnable. And the other thing that's worth noting is that this original model was IPX7, which is why it made it so good for outdoor activities, water activities, and so on, like at a pool or bath time or whatever it happened to be. This one is rated IP56, which means it will definitely take rain, no problem. You can certainly use it outdoors for different events, but you might not want to submerge it for long periods of time. Now, it still floats, so you're not going to have to worry that much about submersion. And I think what's happened here is that this was IPX7, meaning it was an internal certification, where this is IP56, meaning it was sent out for that certification and they came back with a 56 rating. Not bad. It would still work. I would still use it the same way I would the original. It's just something of note that you want to be made aware of, okay? Do not forget to get this. Whether you're getting it for $10 because you're a new member, and you'll get other benefits as well when you sign up, like a free flashlight. I think you still get the i3E and some coupons. You're going to want to at least get this for $10 because that's a very good value for this component. And it's one of the gatekeepers to their proprietary charging tech. It's one of the few units that really makes the system worth investing into. So don't forget to get one. And if you've bought one in the past, you're over the silver membership, at least sign in, because it's basically $5. You're going to pay $5 shipping and get the light for free if you do nothing else. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Now, Olight makes a ton of flashlights, like a lot of flashlights. So it's kind of hard to figure out which ones are really worth the money and which ones you want to, maybe save for or maybe get at a later time. The Seeker 4 Pro is one of the gatekeepers, I think. It's a nice bridge if you are not already invested in the magnetic charging system and have a bunch of flashlights that use it, because the sheath itself has a Type-C port. And that is a very, very important aspect of this light. Now, it comes with a little mount that you can stick to a wall. I keep mine in my truck, and that's where it sits. And it actually sits in such a way that I can charge this in its sheath, and if I need to, I can take that out and put it directly on my hip when I'm using it around the vehicle. That's pretty much what I use this for. It's my vehicle light. Now, I had the older variation. This is a slight improvement on stats pretty much across the board. And so I can certainly recommend it. I've used the older variation. I've used this for a little while. It's basically just a strictly better version. But before you buy it, make sure that you are not missing out on the horizontal holster that works with this light. It's an additional $15, but it is the best $15 you will spend if you're investing, which I think is about $40 cheaper right now, so it's definitely worth it. The horizontal holster will let you use it hands-free, and I think that's a huge benefit. It's also just a lot more comfortable when it comes to carrying it. If you are sitting down, you won't notice it as much. It's not going to be as low profile in the sense that it will hide itself, but you certainly will not feel it digging into your hip, so I really do prefer it. It's also worth noting that both this, and I think this might only be true with the Seeker 4 Pro, is that you can actually adjust the knob and determine your output setting before you turn on the light. So now if I turn it on, it's going to come in on high. If I turn it off, now if I cycle it down, and this is the output setting right here, and I turn it on, it comes in on low. So I don't have to guess what I saved last time. I can always find the exact mode and bring it in where I think it should be. Also of note, if I don't rotate that switch and I've let it sit for a few minutes, now it hasn't waited long enough, it will automatically kind of lock itself out. So you won't be able to turn on the light unless you're rotating the dial first, which is sort of like a safety feature built into it. So I really like that as well. But if you pull it out of the sheath, it's immediately ready to rock and roll, and it unlocks automatically, which I love. So this is definitely one of their best flashlights, there is no question. The Seeker 4 Pro is certainly worth it. I don't know how often they have sales. It's pretty unoften nowadays. So seeing this at, what is it, 30% off approximately, under $100 when it's normally $135, it's worth a pickup. Just don't forget to get the horizontal sheath if you are considering it. Trust me, you will thank me. It is a much more enjoyable experience and really offers a lot more in versatility. You're not going to attach this to a hat. It's a 21700 powered flashlight. It's way too heavy. So having a hands-free option besides just keeping it under your arm or something similar is really helpful. It does have a magnet, and if you were to attach this to a hood of a car, it's certainly going to hold itself up. But holding itself horizontally, not all surfaces are going to have enough metal for it to do so. So having a horizontal sheath that takes care of that, well, that's a big deal, and I cannot recommend that enough. This is definitely one of their better models out there, especially because it has access to the Type-C. It's kind of up there with the Warrior 4, which has the Type-C port hidden underneath the collar, and I really, really like this one as well. Also on sale, by the way. These are flashlights that kind of create a soft landing if you're interested in Olight, because they have the proprietary charging, proprietary batteries, but they have the Type-C port in addition to, in some form. This is one of those examples, and I can definitely recommend it. Now, the next flashlight we're going to talk about is the Arkfeld Ultra. So really, really nice finish on this with a new aluminum body. So this is done in a much higher grade that is resistant to scratching and marring. It's closer to the resistance of something like titanium. Not quite there, but pretty darn close. So it has some benefits from a wear resistant kind of capability. It also has a slightly different geometry in comparison to the Arkfeld Pro. But for all intents and purposes, this is a slightly heavier, slightly more durable Arkfeld Pro. There are a few other improvements, 1400 lumens versus 1300 lumens, slightly longer run times, but otherwise it is basically the same light at a significant increase in price. I would say overall, if you have an Arkfeld Pro, this is not going to be worth the upgrade. There is not really a discernible difference in output that I've noticed in the laser or the UV. It's basically the same light, okay? It's just a slightly different finish. Think of it not like a separate model, but basically like the titanium or the bronze or brass finish version of this light. That's what it is, okay? That's how I would look at this light. Now, one thing I also want to note, I said it with this one, I still think it's silly. I'm going to show you how to fix this problem. For some wild reason, whoever designed the UI on this thought it would be a great idea to change the UI that they have on every single flashlight in their lineup, basically. So it doesn't matter whether we're talking about the Warrior Mini 3, the Baton 4, the Seeker 4 Pro, the Javelot. It doesn't really matter what flashlight you're talking about here, or the Baton 3 Pro Max. It does not matter. They all work the exact same way. When you double press, you get turbo. When you triple press, you get strobe. That is a constant. It's been like that for years. And for some wild reason, they decided to make it reversed, where double press is strobe and triple press is turbo, which makes no sense. Who uses strobe more than turbo? No one. Ever. For any reason. I can't think of a single time in the last 8 months that I have used strobe. Even once. So making it harder to get to the turbo makes no sense. Thankfully, now this is important, thankfully there is a way to fix this. Now let me show you what I'm demonstrating. So there is a strobe warning here. So if I double press, 1, 2, I gotta unlock it first. So if I double press, I get strobe. If I triple press, I get, I get that. What I think is funny is imagine you're panicking, right? If you click 3 times or 30 times, you're still gonna get the turbo or the whatever is 3 presses. It doesn't cycle to anything else, okay? So the one you're gonna want that you're in a panic with, like the strobe mode, is not what you're gonna skip over it. See what I mean about it being silly? So let me show you how you fix it. You turn off the light, and you wanna lock out the light by hold pressing until it turns off. You could see with the little red light that we are now in lockout. Now you're going to press it 10 or more times, and on the last press, you're going to hold the button. And notice it's going to blink on you. Once that's happened, then it will switch to the opposite mode. Do we even need that? I mean, I'm glad that there is this option for another mode. Maybe they could have used that a little bit more efficiently, but the one thing I didn't need is them randomly switching strobe and turbo. So, yeah. I love the new finish. I think it's really cool. If you're a collector and you want to have all the different materials, this is basically the hardened aluminum version of the Arkfeld Pro. But other than that, it's pretty much just a finish deal, not necessarily a massive improvement in performance. And then on top of it, I actually kind of like the marking on the original more than I like it on the Ultra. You notice that you can barely see where it's pointing. Obviously you can look across and kind of do that, but I just felt like this is a lot easier to determine which mode you're on, even in low light. And you might look down and not know, and then maybe turn on your laser when you didn't want it to. Okay, now these have laser, they have UV, and in the laser mode, you can double press to access a light on top of the laser, which I really, really like about the Pro. If they were to make a big different change to this, I want this exact light, but like this big. That would be phenomenal. That's what I want. I want them to shrink it down. That's what I want. Maybe they can make a Pro Nano or something like that. That would be legitimately awesome. Just a slightly shorter runtime, but that's the kind of changes I like to see because these are already kind of getting up there in size, and the new finish does add a little bit of weight as well because they change the geometry. It now ramps up to the edges instead of being kind of more on the flat side, so it kind of adds to the weight. That's pretty much all I have to say. If you like the finish, go for it. It's basically the same light with some minor improvements. Now the last light we'll talk about before we get to the discussion of the sail itself is the Baton Turbo. So I actually really like what they have done with this, especially since the last iteration we've had of similar size was the Seeker 4 Mini and the Warrior Nano. And the Warrior Nano was a bit of a disappointment because in fact it had lower candela and lumens over something like the Baton 4. The Baton 4 actually had more output than the Nano did, whereas nothing here has more output than this Baton Turbo. So even though it has 1000 lumens, which technically is lower than this, it has 70,000, rounding up, candela, meaning that this thing can reach out to ridiculous distances. Sorry for the flashing lights. Ridiculous distances. So it's essentially a thrower flashlight that is very, very, very pocketable. It has a reversible clip, which I really like the way they have done it. In fact, it's a significantly better clip than the one on the Baton 4. Nice. And it also has clear indications of both output and battery at all times. Yeah, really cool. And then to kind of cap things off, they've done something a little bit different with this. You can actually take out the battery, and it comes with this little sleeve allowing you to use a CR123, a disposable battery. So if we take this little Streamlight CR123, it's a 3-volt battery, we can stick that in there, and actually, so this is interesting, you want to put the head towards the tail, in this case, and it will work with that as well. So it detects it automatically. You saw the little red light flashing, and you actually get a couple of different output settings, low, medium, and high, and you kind of miss out on turbo. So it's still very, very bright using a CR123, and I really appreciate the fact that this light gives you some battery versatility. It's a really good offering. It is significantly better than something like the Seeker 4 Pro, Seeker 4 Mini, I should say, which had the silliest orientation of the pocket clip, which means all of this was sticking out of your pocket. This actually can be carried pretty reasonably, and I don't have any problem with it. So I'm actually pretty happy with it compared to other small flashlights. But like, I have this nagging feeling that they could have done better by having it utilize a tail switch instead of a side switch. They already have the Warrior Nano, which is also an 18350 size. In fact, it uses the exact same battery. They are not interchangeable, in case you were wondering. They have completely different body sizes. But it would have made more sense for this to have a similar setup as the Warrior Mini 3, where it has the side switch and the tail switch, and could activate 2 different modes from the tail, along with a side switch. That would truly turn this into a compact tactical flashlight with an output that even rivals or exceeds the Warrior Mini 3, right? Because even though this technically has more lumens, it has significantly lower candela, meaning in the area that this beam creates, it's actually quite a bit brighter than the larger flashlight. I really feel like it's a missed opportunity, and hopefully in the future they will make a version of this with that style of head, because I think it's a combination that really should exist. Now, in addition to having a tail switch, I just don't know if the battery versatility in this case really justifies it as carry. Because it's a side switch, it's not actually a tactical light, right? I have to fumble to find that switch if I'm in a panic, and it's just not going to be successful in comparison to a tail switch, which I can find in any direction. I always know where it is. And on top of that, when you're carrying it, This light is wider in the pocket than the Baton 3 Pro Max, which uses a massive 21700 battery. I mean, look at the difference in size between these two batteries, okay? So even though the body is narrow, the head is not. So this flashlight goes easier into holsters and actually is surprisingly easier to carry in the pocket than even a flashlight like this one. That is not to say it's not worth carrying a flashlight with a larger head because of something like the throw that it has. I just would love to have seen a larger variation appear first with a tail switch. I really do believe an 18650 variant that includes this head or similar head and this tail switch might be the ultimate. It might truly be the best overall compact tactical flashlight. Now this one is going to have a wider beam, but that's not always what you want in that context. So I definitely think there's a market for it. Not a bad option. The pricing is really good, less than $50 right now. So for that and being able to use a CR123, that's a pretty decent pickup. I think compared to some of their other lights, this is a far better design than most, and there aren't that many flashlights that compete with it in compact form factor and battery versatility, along with UI, the magnetic tail, and everything else. So it has all those features. I definitely think it's one of the better things that Olight has made recently. I tend to carry either, if I'm carrying an Olight, it's usually either the Baton 4 or the Warrior Mini 3. I don't know if this particular light is going to replace either one of these lights, but I could see a world where I might. I'm just not sure if it's going to make sense because it is a thrower. It's not going to be great for up close use. So it's still kind of a specialized tool versus a more general purpose one. That's probably the reason why it'll end up kind of staying in the shelf, but it depends very much on what you're interested in. If you're looking for something you can pull out of your pocket and put something on a target that's 200 or 300 yards away, well, maybe this is your light. Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. I kind of go back and forth. I think this might be one of those lights where I'm skeptical at first, but as I carry it more often, I like it more and more. This definitely feels like that opportunity. And the Baton Turbo is definitely a decent offering from them. The added battery versatility is a nice bonus. We're going to finish up talking about the best deals, all right, where you can really save some money. They want you to go ahead and buy the new products, obviously, but always check out the DIY bundles. So there's a little listing at the top of the website that's always there. And if you go with the DIY bundles, you're going to get a minimum of 30% off a single item, or if you buy more than one, and it doesn't matter what combination, you're going to get 40% off both. That's as good and as high of a discount as you can possibly muster during this sale. So things like the Warrior X4, the Baton 3 Pro Max, the i3T, the i3T2, all of these are on sale in the DIY bundle section. You can get multiples of the same light if you want. That'll still give you 40% off. So don't forget to check that out. All right, that's pretty much all I have for today. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Olight in general, if you have a favorite light that I didn't mention, and if there's something I didn't cover relating to these, let me know. When it comes to beam shots and specifics about each light, I find that you can go check out Prepared Guy over on YouTube. I will leave a link to some of his reviews as well. He does some of the most thorough coverage of all of the flashlights from Olight, and you should definitely check it out. As always, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk again soon.